Hello, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the sauna, the hot ass apartment that I currently live in right now. If you do hear something in the background, that is my fan off to my left blowing directly on me and I turned it down low so it wouldn't be too much of a distraction. That's me thinking of you. But yeah, anyway. Because it is unbearably hot in this apartment and the AC is not working to its full potential. Let's just say that. But this is, of course, another spoiler video for Core 2021. Anyway, let's just dive right into it. So we got these two cards here. They look like they're probably going to be this one more so in like a Golgari Mill type deck, like self mill. I'm already getting some like really neat ideas for this based off of one card that we will take a look at. I can't remember if it was in the previous video or not, but basically it was the one drop like human or something like that, but if you cast it from like your graveyard, you sack it and create a 5/5 demon. So you can already see the combos with Lurrus like already starting to flutter in the air. And then there's, of course, Spide Megalodon. This looks like just a great limited card. So let's get to some really good stuff, though. Let's see. Faith's Fetters. This is a really good card. You gain 4 life, and then enchanted permanent can attack or block, and its abilities can't be activated unless they're mana abilities, and it's a permanent card. So you could throw this on a Planeswalker and just say, have fun. Unless it's a mana ability, then it wouldn't really work. Like, you know, if it's like Domri or whatever. Then there's, you know, the dogs here. Bolthound, which is a 2/2 haste, and whenever it attacks other creatures you control, get +1/+0. There's Selfless Savior, which is a little doggo there that will you could sack it and give something indestructible, give a creature indestructible. I'm going to try and make this a little bit of a shorter video, just talk about the real juicy stuff here. Kinetic Augur seems pretty good for 4 mana. It is a star 4, which means Kinetic Augur's power is equal to the number of instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard. It has trample. And then when it enters the battlefield, you can discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. So I think this is a really, really decent card here. Not sure how, like in a budget sense, you know, like another Izzet budget-friendly thing. See the Truth is very interesting. So this is a 2 mana sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of those cards in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. If the spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, put each of those cards into your hand instead. So this is a really interesting card, and I'm not, off the top of my head, I can't think of any way outside of, like, you know, exiling the top cards of your libraries, like maybe Furious Rise or whatever that enchantment is. There's also Mission Briefing. You can kind of flashback this, but it is a really interesting card. Now, of course, let's get to the big one that's taken everybody by storm here. This is an extremely powerful green creature card. I am personally excited because I love cards like this. For 5 mana, you get a 6/6 Vigilance, Reach, Trample. Oh my god. You thought Questing Beast was a pain in the ass. Not only do you get all of that, but you also get, whenever it attacks or blocks, you choose one, create a 3/3 green beast token, gain 3 life, or draw a card. Wow. Rightfully deserving of the mythic symbol there. This card is going to be a powerhouse, obviously. Really excited to see this in action, especially being like green. I always like those mono green, like, you know, stomp decks. They reprinted one of my favorite white draw cards, Revitalize, or betterly known as Sips. You gain 3 life, draw a card. It's an instant for 2 mana. Always great. Radiant Fountain. This is also cool for life gain decks. You gain 2 life when it comes into the battlefield. Taps for colorless. Now here we go with some interesting cards here. So these are all around the Planeswalker. So I'm wondering if, because these are obviously not the Planeswalker deck, so I'm wondering if each Planeswalker, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, Basri's Acolyte, Lieutenant. It looks like all the Planeswalkers get like their own creatures devoted to them. So we'll start with the Incinerate, Chandra's Incinerator. The spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponent this turn. So right off the bat, this looks pretty decent, and it looks like they're trying to kind of maybe have burn be somewhat of a thing again, which I'm totally cool with. I actually don't mind playing just a dumb, stupid burn deck, you know, but on top of that, it is a 6/6 trample, and then whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that player controls. So this is really, really good. I really like this. Pair that with, say, Scorch Spitter, Torbran, and then like maybe like Flame Spill. I mean, this card can be really heavy in the like in the later game. And plus with Flame Spill, technically you could, depending on how much land you have, I mean, it's for 6 mana. Even if you were to get a Flame Spill and say deal 2, you're still looking at 4. Flame Spill costs 3, so the most you can probably do is shock and get it to be 4, you know. So, or I don't know, thinking too much here. Right off the bat though, this card looks like it would be fun to play. Then there's Chandra, Heart of Fire. Is it just me, or does like every Chandra Planeswalker always seem powerful, like right off the bat? So +1, discard your hand, then exile the top 3 cards of your library, and until the end of your turn you can play the cards exiled this way. So not the best thing to have when you play it off the jump, but here's the thing. It has she has a second plus ability, which is deal 2 damage to any target, so it's a shock on a stick. So this, obviously paired with the Incinerator, is going to be a hearty combo to deal with. So having 2 plus abilities really, really helps, especially since, you know, the plus ability here gets her to 6, deals 2, you can kill something, you can deal 2 to your opponent. Now the -9, search your graveyard and library for any number of red instant or sorcery cards, exile them, shuffle your library, you may cast them this turn, and you add 6 red mana. So it looks like they're really pushing this burn aspect in this core set. I mean, it makes sense. In these core sets, they're designed for basic deck construction and stuff like that for people who are new to the game. So this is a fairly simple concept for people to kind of grasp. It's like, okay, red, burn. I'm just going to shoot all these spells at your face and try and kill you as quick as possible. Then there's Chandra's Magmut. 2 mana, 2/2, and tap it, and it deals 1 to a player or planeswalker. Not bad. Then there's Chandra's Pyreling. 2 mana, 1/3. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, it gets +1/+0 and gains double strike. So it's almost like a better Chandra's Spitfire in the sense that it doesn't have flying, but it has double strike. So that's always good. Then there's Basri's Lieutenant. This card is awesome. I love this card. 4 mana, 3/4, Vigilance, Protection from Multicolor. It's always a pain in the ass. Off the jump, you're all like, protection from multicolor, I don't know. But then you look at it and you're all like, wow, actually, there are a lot of really good multicolor cards that are like all over the place in Standard right now. So this is very relevant. When Basri's Lieutenant enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature you control, and then whenever Basri's Lieutenant or another creature you control dies, if it had a +1 counter on it, you create a 2/2 White Knight creature token with Vigilance. I'm already looking at this. If any of you have seen my my human/knight standard deck, I'm already eyeballing this card, and the fact that it's just a regular knight, it's not legendary or anything like that, already looking at playing a play set of this dude in there. Then there's, of course, another awesome basic land here. Did we see a mountain? No, we didn't. This one is really cool. I'm liking the direction they're going with these basic lands, trying to make them a little bit more unique. I mean, obviously, there's nothing wrong with the classic, you know, like the classic paint styles of like the original artworks. Those will always have a special place in my art. But these are really cool. This one looks like it's Amonkhet. You can see the pyramids in the background. Basri's Acolyte, we touched on this in my last spoiler video. Basri's Solidarity. Now this looks really good. For 2 mana, it's a sorcery. You put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Very strong. I think that's very, very strong. Then there's Basri Ket. We already talked about him in the last video. Then there's Solemn Simulacrum. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and then when it dies, you may draw a card. So it's a may ability, but you know. So this is actually pretty cool. For 4 mana, though, I'm not really sure. Obviously, it'll probably see play in a lot of ramp decks because it's a creature. It's 4 mana. You get a land. When it dies, you just chuck it in front of a creature, and you draw a card. So then there's Village Rites. This is actually pretty neat. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sack a creature, draw 2 cards, and it's an instant. That's the key right there. Very rarely do you have something as simple as this as an instant for black to draw some cards. I mean, there was Dark Bargain, but that's 4 mana, you lose life, you look at, I forget the whole spec, but this is really good, especially with all the play that we're seeing with, Lurrus, how could I forget his name? With Lurrus and, Gutter Bones, and the Serrated Scorpion. I mean, just all these sacrifice decks that have that ability to get these creatures back onto the battlefield. This is going to be really good in those decks because for a single black at instant speed, and all you got to do is sack a creature, especially if it's a creature that you can get back, or when it dies, it does something to your opponent and gives you a benefit. That's very, very good in my opinion. Then there's Pestilent Haze for 3 mana sorcery. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn, or you can remove 2 loyalty counters from each planeswalker. That's also very good, very strong card. With as many like creature tokens and aggro decks we're looking at in this set, Pestilent Haze, you kind of saw this kind of a card coming, especially since in September, I think it is. That's when we're going to be losing, all of Ravnica and all that stuff. Then, of course, there's Massacre Worm. We already talked about this card. It's finally confirmed. Awesome card. I love it. Angelic Ascension. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Its controller creates a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. So this is a 2 mana instant. It gets rid of a problem, but it kind of gives you a problem to have to deal with in any way. So I don't know how good this card is going to be. Maybe in control it can work, obviously, because if you have, say, the 3-drop Teferi, you can do this to a creature or planeswalker, then you can -3 Teferi, bounce the token, and it dies. You see where I'm going. This card I really like, but also I can already tell I'm going to hate it. It is a 3 mana, so 1 and then a green and a blue for a 2/2 snake. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Lore Scale Coatl. Card looks really fun, but I can tell it's going to be a pain. Cultivate is also another old, I think it's an older card. I think I've seen it in older sets. It's been a while, but I do recognize the artwork. I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I could be wrong. Don't take my word for it. But I'm pretty sure this is like a reprint of an older card. But you search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, put them on the battlefield tab, and shuffle your library, as if ramp needed anything more to go along with its arsenal. But hey, you know what? With all of these ramp tools, it's going to be everybody's going to have their own version of it, and there's going to be, but that's the thing, there's so much variety that you can't, you can literally build any kind of ramp deck, and you're going to have just all this stuff to choose from to put into it. So this is the card I was talking about earlier, Archfiend's Vassal. For a single black, you get a 1/1 lifelink, and then when it enters the battlefield, if it entered from your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, exile it, and if you do, create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying. This is a solid card. This is a card that I am excited to experiment with. This is going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, can't wait for that. Pursued Whale. I don't know about this card. It's 7 mana for an 8/8. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent creates a 1/1 red pirate creature token with this creature can't block, and creatures you control attack each combat if able. Spells your opponents cast that target Pursued Whale costs 3 more to cast. So, I mean, it has a little bit of a defense, but for 7 mana, I don't know. I don't know about that. Then there's Pride Malkin. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and then each creature you control with a counter on it, +1 counter on it, has trample. So here we go. More spoilers here. I'm not too familiar with some of these, but alright. Stormwing Entity for 5 mana. The spell costs 3 less, so 2 and a blue. Less to cast if you've cast an instant sorcery spell this turn. flying prowess. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. This is a really cool card for blue. It has a lot going on right here. And if you cast something as simple as Opt, it will cost it will literally cost you 2 blue to play. Or no, actually it'll cost you it'll cost you a colorless and a blue. Sorry. And then you get a 3/3 flying with prowess, and then it scry 2 when it comes in the battlefield. So this is a strong card. I like it a lot. And there's Joriel, a character we have not seen in a very long time, if I do remember correctly. She is a much older character in Magic the Gathering. So for 1 and a green, whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 green cat creature token. Then you can tap 6 until end of turn. Creatures you control have base power and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So this is a very different type of green card here. It's a type of card you don't really see too often when it comes to green, but it is pretty cool. She's only a 1/2, so she is very vulnerable, but for 2 mana, going with like a ramp style deck, where you can draw cards, like say with Growth Spiral and Hydroid Krasis, and God knows what else. Like playing this with like blue-green, there is a lot of options here where you can actually create a huge problem. And this is an ability that you can activate at any time. So if you play this with like Wilderness Reclamation, see, I'm getting ahead of myself here, man. This is something that can get really crazy. Standard is going to be very interesting for a few months when this set comes out. Now here's the burn spell that every set always has. That's an uncommon. So 3 mana, Soul Seer, deals 5 damage to a creature or planeswalker. Then that permanent loses indestructible until end of turn. This is something I think is much needed in red. Sorry, everybody, I'm starting to get parched here. Much needed in red. Thankfully, we got something like this. Being able to deal with big creatures and creatures that are indestructible, and something that also has planeswalkers for 3 mana. Shoot, I will put this in and I will pay the extra mana to deal 5 instead of dealing just 3 with Scorching Dragonfire. I'm going to try and speed this up a little bit. I want to try and, get to some more stuff that I'm excited about. Invigorating Surge, so put a counter on target creature you control, then double the number of +1 counters on that creature. So this is pretty neat. Idol of Endurance. I remember this card. So this is an interesting card. When Idol of Endurance enters the battlefield, exile all creature cards with a converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard until Idol of Endurance leaves the battlefield. Then you can pay 1 and a white, tap it, until end of turn you may cast a creature spell from among the cards exiled with Idol of Endurance without paying its mana cost. So this is a pretty interesting card. Volcanic Salvo. So this card, this is nuts. So 12 mana. So let's see what we got here. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. Total power of all creatures you control. Now, Volcanic Salvo deals 6 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures and or planeswalkers. So this is obviously going to be seeing some play in mono red, because you could have like 5, 6 power, 7 power, no problem, even higher than that. The fact is that it's 12 mana. So even if you have like 3 2/2s or 4 2/2s, you're still looking at like 4 to 6 mana to play this card. But you are dealing 6. It can be a home run. It can get you back in the game relatively quick. Now this is the part where I get filled with sadness and despair, and I am just questioning, why does Wizards hate us so much? They're reprinting the Scrylands. Now, I don't have a problem per se with Scrylands. It's just that we literally just had them printed in Throne of Eldraine and Core 20, I believe. And why can't we just have the check lands? Drowned Catacomb, Rootbound Crag, Glacial Fortress, Clifftop Retreat. Why can't we have these freaking lands in every standard? block. I don't understand it. They are such a staple, and they're such good lands, and everybody, I feel like I speak for a lot of Magic players. We would rather have those damn lands than these. Because, yeah, sure, you scry one, but it's like, when you really need that 5th land or 6th land and you draw this, it just fills you with frustration because you're just all like, I have a forest and I have a swamp. If I just would have, if only, I'm blanking on the freaking green-black, like, check land, but if only this was standard legal, I'd be alright. So, we're going to suffer through another round of scry lands. Again, like I said, I don't hate them. It just really complicates and skews mana curves, like, really bad. Except, unless you're playing ramp. Unless you're playing ramp, you don't give a shit. But my prediction is, in Zendikar Rising, when it comes out, yes, going back to Zendikar for a third time, when that comes out, I'm hoping they have something that, some type of check land, you know. It may be the ones that they had during like the last Innistrad block, where it was like you have to reveal a certain basic land for it to come in on tap. That's fine, I guess. This mountain looks okay. It looks okay. I'll just leave it at that. Now, oh my god, I cannot believe they reprinted this Heroic Intervention. Wow. Prior to this, a few months ago, because I was looking into this because I was looking at Pioneer and stuff like that, this card was almost $30 if it wasn't already $30 a pop. So them reprinting this is insane. I mean, time out real quick. Well, first let me talk about what it does. 2 mana, I'm getting ahead of myself here because I got a rant. 2 mana, permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Okay. First off, they're fine printing this, and it's 2 mana, but they had a problem with Veil of Summer. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care. Veil of Summer should not have been banned. Maybe in like other formats, like Modern or whatever, but I don't think Veil of Summer should have been banned because it was a sideboard card. Okay. I mean, sure, when it was out, people were playing it a lot more, like willing to play like a copy or two in their main deck because of Oko decks running rampant everywhere. But the fact of the matter is that Veil of Summer only worked on 2 specific colors. Here, I mean, sure, whatever. We can argue all day and night about this. Fact of the matter is that this card is crazy. It is crazy good, and I can't believe they reprinted it. So this is going to be everywhere in Standard. Anytime you see green, especially in Arena on Best of 1, you can guarantee this card is going to be in there. They reprinted Fabled Passage. That is perfectly fine. I think that should probably be a rare in every core set going forward. Obsessive Stitcher is pretty cool. 1, a black and a blue for a 0/3, draw a card, then discard a card, and you can tap 2, and then a black and a blue, sack it, and then return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This goes along very well with oh wait, no, sorry. This is only like, wait, so if it entered from your graveyard or you cast it, so yeah, this goes along with this. So I don't know. That's one of the things that I thought of like right away. Was like, oh, this goes with that, and like a Dimir, or it doesn't have to be Dimir. It could be Sultai. It could be anything. But yeah, so this card is pretty cool. Discard, then draw, then discard for a tap, and then for 4, yeah. Grasp of Darkness, one of my favorite black removals ever. Target creature gets -4/-4 until on a turn. It's instant, 2 black, awesome. Alpine Houndmaster. I'm not too big on this card. I don't really care for this kind of stuff. Let's see. Kind of just like, I kind of like automatically go to the next card before I actually realize, oh, I don't want to talk about this card. So this one I feel like we need to talk about because this is just another Planeswalker specific card. So Garruk's Uprising here. So Garruk's Uprising, 2 and a green, enchantment. When This card enters the battlefield. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you draw a card. Creatures you control have trample. When a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This is extremely powerful for green, especially at 3 mana. This is very, very strong in my opinion. And I do like the artwork. The artwork is pretty sick. So, let's see. Riddle Form it seems pretty interesting. This is 1 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may have it become a 3/3 Sphinx flying creature with flying in addition to its other types. And you also tap 3 to scry 1. I think this is pretty neat. I don't know how much play it'll see, but I think it's actually a pretty cool card. Limited, it's probably going to be pretty neat in like a blue X like spells kind of thing. This is one of the other counter spells. I think this is actually pretty cool. So 1 in a blue for Lofty Denial. So counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. If you control a creature with flying, counter that counter target spell unless its controller pays 4 instead. So I'm a fan of that. I like that card. It's pretty neat. Let's see. This card is crazy. Conspicuous Snoop for 2 red. It is a Goblin Rogue. It is a 2/2. So you play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast Goblin spells from the top of your library as long as the top card of your library is a Goblin card. Conspicuous Snoop has all activated abilities of that card. This is going to be everywhere across all formats, in my opinion. Standard, probably not so much because there isn't that much of a focus on goblins, unfortunately. This card is a little late to the party because back in like Dominaria and like Core 20, well, back when Dominaria was still standard, there was actually a lot of like really good like goblin cards. And then Ravnica came around with like Legion Warboss and Krenko. So, but this card, I'm eager to like play test with this. This is going to be interesting. I think this card is really cool. Let's see some of these foreign cards I can't remember off the top of my head. Yes, this one though. I remember this. Frantic Inventory for 1 in a blue. Instant, draw a card, then draw cards equal to the number of cards named Frantic Inventory in your graveyard. This is basically a copy-paste of accumulated knowledge from back in like the Mercadian Mass block, which was one of my favorite draw spells from back then. That was right around the time I started playing Magic. Why they didn't just reprint accumulated knowledge? We don't know. So, Frantic Inventory takes its place. But it's an awesome card, and I really do like it. This, like, I'm already seeing this in, like, decks that play Ominous Seas, stuff like that, so. Alright. So this is an interesting removal spell for red. Transmogrify. So it's a 4-mana sorcery, exile target creature. That creature's controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. That player puts that card onto the battlefield, then shuffles the rest into their library. This is very, very interesting. I think it'll be okay. Then again, I don't know. It's red, so it's like you're really taking a gamble here to get rid of something. There's Goblin Arsonist. When Goblin Arsonist dies, I may have it deal 1 damage to any target. Pretty basic. Heartfire Immolator is another card I'm really interested in. So it is a 2-mana, 2/2 prowess. Then you can tap 1, sack it. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. Big fan of that. Now, Fiery Emancipation. For 6 mana, this is an enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. What? I don't have to explain how ridiculous that is, but I'm willing to play it. I'll just say that much. All right, now we get to some of the really cool stuff, like my boy Garruk getting the respect he deserves, being brought back in Core 21. Garruk Unchained. He's 4 mana, so we get a nice artwork here that he's lower costing. He's specific to green. He's back in his home colors. So he comes in with 4 loyalty. You can +1 to have up to 1 target creature gets +3/+3 and trample until end of turn. You can minus them to create a 3/3 beast creature token. Then, if an opponent controls more creatures than you, put a loyalty counter on Garruk Unchained. That's very, very good, especially for 4 mana early in the game. If you're behind a little bit, you can create a creature, and then you can basically replenish 1 loyalty counter on him. That's really cool. I like that. I like that ability. I like the option they have in here. Not option, but I love the secondary ability here. -7, typical Garruk thing. If you get a -7, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, you may search your library for a creature card and put it onto the battlefield. Shuffle your library. At a -7, that's pretty threatening for a 4 mana planeswalker that starts out at 4. But you kind of need to have a pretty solid base built to protect him if you're just going to start plussing. So, but I'm eager to play with him. He's awesome. So now we get his specific card, Garruk's Herald. So for 1 and 2 green, you get a 4/3 hexproof from black. This is awesome. This is basically like cheaper Vindmare, but Vindmare also, well, no, Vindmare was hexproof and it had protection from black, so almost. Whenever Garruk's Herald deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, look at that same number of cards from the top of your library. So basically, if it hits for 4, you look at 4. You may reveal a creature or Garruk planeswalker card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is really cool card. Love it. This one I'm just going to make a note. 3 mana, 2/1 flying. Non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. So that's a pain in the ass for control players. So here's some ones I haven't had the chance to look at yet. So you get the joy of some unfiltered reactions here. So this is Subira Tolzidi Caravaneer. For 2 and a red, it is a 2/3 haste. If you tap 1 colorless, another target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. Okay. 1 and a red, tap it, discard your hand until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Now, ooh, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. I'm okay with this. This is actually pretty neat. It'll be interesting to see what how red incorporates that. So we get our rare spider, Spore Silk Weaver. For 2 and a green, you get a reach hexproof from blue. I love these cards that have these specific hexproofs from certain colors, man. Whenever Spore Silk Weaver is dealt damage, gain 1 life and create a 1/1 green Saproling creature token. At a 1/4, that's not bad. Let's see. I don't really feel like going in to read some of these. All right. Oh, whoops. That was in English. Thieves Guild Enforcer. For 1 black, you get a 1/1 flash. Whenever Thieves Guild Enforcer or another rogue enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 2 cards. Interesting. As long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, Thieves Guild Enforcer gets +2/+1 and has Death Touch, so it becomes a 3/2 Death Touch. This is really neat. Oh man, I love this card. Alright, Truffle Snout. Enters the battlefield, choose 1. Put a counter on Truffle Snout and gain 4 life. Okay, pretty good limited card. Wildwood Scourge. So this is a Hydra with the X green. Whenever Wildwood Scourge enters the battlefield with X counters, whenever 1 or more +1 counters are put on another non-Hydra creature you control, put a counter on Wildwood. Okay, that's pretty neat. Tempered Veteran, 1 white, 1/2 white, and tap, put a +1 counter on target creature with a counter on it. Tap 6, put a +1 counter on target creature. Not that great. Conclave Mentor. I believe this is a reprint from the Ravnica series. If 1 or more +1 counters will be put on a creature you control, that many +1 counters are put on that creature instead. When Conclave Mentor dies, you gain life equal to its power. Alright, cool. This looks like another limited stud here. Goremand for 6. As a cost to cast a spell, sack a creature, flying trample. It's a 5/5. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacks a creature. Alright, not bad. We get a rare cat. Feline Sovereign. So for 3 mana, other cats you control get +1/+1 and have protection from dogs. Whenever 1 or more cats you control deals combat damage to a player, destroy it up to 1 target artifact or enchantment that player controls. For 2/3, that's not terrible. So, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now we have the last one for today. Miscast. For a single blue, counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 3. You were so close, Wizards. So close to just flat out reprinting Dispel. Why not? Why can't you just do that? I guess we'll have to make do with this. All in all, I'm pretty excited with a lot of these cards. The first set of like spoils, I was kind of like but now these have kind of like really ramped up my interest in this set. So I'm really excited about this. Let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. Let me know which some of these cards are your favorites, which ones you're most likely to look forward to, which ones you are going to be hating to play against, and all that other jazz. And until next time, I will see you later.